Everything was going as planned. Until it wasn't. Season 2 of Landman was supposed to be about oil empires, power struggles, and one man's fight to hold it all together. The marketing made it clear. The lead was the face of the show, the anchor. But just a few episodes in, something unexpected happened. Another character someone no one expected completely stole the spotlight. Their scenes hit harder. Their story felt sharper. Their presence unshakable. Suddenly, all eyes were on them. The show didn't just shift. It cracked wide open. And what came out might be the most surprising twist of the season. This is how one star hijacked the spotlight in Landman Season 2. And why it changes everything. When Landman Season 1 first aired, it felt like a classic American drama, with a sharp, modern edge. Set against the backdrop of the booming oil industry in Texas, the show gave us boardrooms filled with tension, land deals soaked in secrets, and a main character with the kind of quiet intensity that draws you in. He wasn't flashy, he was real, gritty, a man dealing with moral gray areas, tough choices, and the weight of an empire on his shoulders. He was, without a doubt, the center of the story. That character, played by a well-known lead actor, was the core of Landman. From the very first episode, he held the camera like a veteran with subtlety and gravity. He didn't need big speeches or over-the-top scenes. His presence did the talking. The writers built the entire Season 1 arc around him, layering in complex challenges, family, money, land rights, and betrayal, all connected to his journey. Critics praised his performance. Fans admired the realism of his character. The show's marketing leaned heavily into him. This wasn't an ensemble cast fighting for space. This was a one-man spotlight. So, when Season 2 was announced, expectations were simple. More of the same, just bigger. More oil. More corruption. More of his story. Teasers focused on the same faces, especially him. The showrunners dropped hints about high-stakes conflicts, new rivals, and deeper emotional wounds. And once again, the trailers revolved around his stare, his silence, his simmering rage. Fans were ready to dive back into his world. But here's where things take a turn. In the first 2 episodes of Season 2, everything seemed on track. The lead was back, the pacing was sharp, and the conflict was building. We were seeing him make tough calls again, walk political tightropes, and carry the burden of being the man in charge. The writing was strong. The world felt even more lived in, and the tension was rising. It was Landman doing what it does best, keeping us locked into the high-stakes drama of an industry few understand. But many are fascinated by. Then, the shift began. At first, it was subtle. A new character appeared, or maybe a side character from Season 1 returned with more weight. Maybe they were introduced as a helper, a threat, or someone just passing through. But something about them was different. They had that it factor. The kind of performance where even in a quiet scene, you can't look away. Their delivery was sharp, their timing perfect. They didn't just act, they commanded. Soon, the audience noticed. Social media posts started pointing it out. Is it just me, or is this character stealing the show? Reddit threads popped up overnight. Some fans were even frustrated. They'd come for the original lead, but were finding themselves more invested in this other story. It didn't feel like the writers had planned this. It felt like it just happened, like lightning in a bottle. By Episode 3, it was undeniable. The spotlight had moved. And this wasn't just about performance. The writing around the new spotlight character began to feel deeper. Their backstory slowly unwrapped. Their scenes carried heavier emotional weight. They were layered, vulnerable, yet still powerful. You could feel the writers adjusting, as if even they realized something was happening that they couldn't ignore. The most shocking part. The original lead wasn't getting worse. He was still good, even great. But the new star wasn't just acting. They were taking over. This is the moment every showrunner dreams of and fears at the same time. On one hand, you've found gold, a performance or character that ignites the screen. On the other, it shifts the entire balance of the story. Suddenly, the rules change. Audiences want more of this new energy. And whether the writers planned for it or not, the pressure is on. Lean into the change, or risk losing the momentum. In Landman Season 2, that pressure is now real. A new player has taken the spotlight. And the show, whether by choice or by force, is changing in real time. Every show has that scene. The one where the camera lingers a little longer than expected. where the silence says more than words, where a supporting character suddenly doesn't feel so supporting anymore. Asterisk in Landman Season 2. That moment happened halfway through Episode 3. It wasn't loud, it wasn't even action-heavy. It was a quiet confrontation, maybe in a dusty office or under a fading West Texas sunset. But in that scene, the unexpected star, let's call them the Breakout, delivered a performance so real, so raw, that everything else in the episode faded into the background. Viewers didn't just see the character, they felt them, and just like that, the hijack began. This character might have been introduced in Season 1, but back then, they were just part of the machinery. They did their job, moved the story along, played a role that supported the main arc. But in Season 2, the script gave them space and they took it. Their early scenes hinted at more depth, maybe a painful past or quiet ambition. And when the moment came, the Breakout didn't blink. They stepped into the spotlight and made it theirs. The reaction was immediate. Twitter blew up first. Clips from the episode, especially that scene, started trending. Fans praised the delivery, the intensity, the emotional complexity. "I didn't see this coming," one tweet read. "Give the actor an Emmy now," said another. Over on Reddit, threads lit up with titles like "Why Breakout Character is Now the Real Lead" and "Did the Writers Just Switch Protagonists on Us?" YouTube breakdowns started flooding in. Fan accounts changed their icons to this new face. Something had shifted, and it wasn't small. Asterisk by Episode 4, it was obvious that the writers were leaning in. The Breakout characters' screen time expanded. Their story deepened. Flashbacks revealed things we never knew. Dialogue grew heavier, more personal. And each time they appeared on screen, they brought something the main lead hadn't: unpredictability. You didn't know what they were going to say or do next. And that made them impossible to ignore. Asterisk, but what makes a character hijack the spotlight in the first place? It's not always about big moments or dramatic twists. It's about presence, timing, humanity, and most of all, truth. The Breakout actor in Landman S2 wasn't just performing. They were living in every frame. You could see it in the eyes, the hesitation in their voice, the way they didn't rush through a line. They slowed the world down and made you feel every beat of their journey. Asterisk, it also helped that their character had something unique: perspective. Asterisk, while the main character was embedded in power, used to making deals, pulling strings, calling shots, the Breakout came from the margins. They saw the industry from the ground, from the dirt. Their story wasn't about control, it was about survival. And that contrast hit home for a lot of viewers. In a show about oil, land, and legacy, this was a voice that felt more grounded, more relatable, and ironically, more urgent. Asterisk, some fans called it a reclaiming of the story. Others said it was the underdog finally being heard. Whether intentional or not, this shift turned Landman into something deeper. It wasn't just about the men at the top, it was about the people crushed underneath. And the Breakout character, they were speaking for all of them. Asterisk, what makes this hijack even more impressive is how it didn't rely on cheap tricks. There were no shocking deaths, no surprise betrayals to force attention, just good writing and a performance that refused to be background. The Breakout actor wasn't loud, they were real. And that kind of quiet power is rare in TV. It doesn't demand attention, it earns it. Asterisk, behind the scenes, it's likely that the showrunners saw the spark too. Whether they adjusted the script mid-season or had always planned for this shift, we may never know. But the pivot was smooth, not rushed. It felt organic, like the show was slowly waking up to something more powerful than it had first imagined. Asterisk, and what about the original lead? Asterisk, he's still there, still solid. Still the same man we followed in Season 1. But now, something's changed. He's not alone in the spotlight, and every time the Breakout steps into frame, the dynamic shifts. It's no longer just his story. It's their story, and it's growing beyond him. Asterisk, this isn't just a narrative hijack. It's a tonal one. The entire emotional center of the show has moved. The stakes feel different. The tension feels heavier. You start watching scenes differently, waiting not just for what will happen, but for who will walk into the room next. Asterisk, and that's the power of a true spotlight hijack. It doesn't take the story away, it expands it, deepens it, redefines what the show can be. Asterisk, asterisk. So, the spotlight has shifted. The Breakout character has captured the audience's full attention. But why does that matter? Why is this moment more than just a strong performance in a single TV season? Because in the world of television, especially, in a show like Landman, when a supporting actor hijacks the story, it doesn't just change who we're watching. It changes what the show is actually saying. Let's start with this. Landman has always been about power. Land ownership, oil rights, environmental politics, and moral compromise. From the very beginning, it painted a picture of a high-stakes world run by a few powerful men, and the damage left in their wake. The original lead stood at the center of that world. He was the man with the deals, the pressure, and the heavy conscience. Season 1 was shaped around his burden, and audiences bought in. But when the breakout character stepped forward in Season 2, the lens shifted. Suddenly, we weren't just looking at the decisions made in boardrooms or behind closed doors. We were seeing the aftershocks. The consequences of greed. The damage done to people who never had power to begin with. In many ways, this new character made the show more honest, more human, more urgent. This matters because it represents a shift in the way stories are told, especially in shows rooted in systems of power. We've seen it before. A character meant to be in the background breaks through because they reflect something the story was missing. Something real, something raw. In Landman, the breakout doesn't just offer a fresh perspective, they offer a corrective lens, one that rebalances the entire show. Think about the emotional tone of the series before and after this shift. Early Season 2 was still strong, but familiar. Deals, deadlines, quiet moral struggles behind a rich man's gate. After the breakout, the emotional core widened. We weren't just watching one man struggle with his conscience. We were watching someone struggle to exist in a system that constantly chews people up and spits them out. And that's when the real tension kicks in. Because now, viewers aren't just asking, will the main character make the right choice? They're asking, why do people like him even get to make those choices? That shift in perspective from the top down to the bottom up makes the story more layered. It pulls us into the uncomfortable spaces the show used to gloss over. It forces us to care about people the system forgets. That's what the breakout character represents. The voice of the overlooked, the complexity of the powerless, and the idea that real strength doesn't always come from status or control, sometimes it comes from simply surviving. There's also a cultural reason this matters. TV audiences today are different than they were even 5 years ago. They don't just want compelling characters, they want characters who say something. Who reflect real issues, real struggles, real voices. A character hijacking the spotlight isn't just about performance, it's about connection. And if millions of viewers are connecting more deeply with the breakout than the original lead, that means the story has tapped into something much bigger than itself. That connection creates momentum. Suddenly, this isn't just about one character. In one show, it becomes a conversation. Critics start paying attention. Award chatter begins. Viewers start lobbying online. More screen time. Give them their own arc. Spin-off win. That kind of buzz can reshape how studios plan their next seasons and even their next shows. It sends a message. Give audiences characters who matter, who carry truth, and they will follow them anywhere. The breakout moment in Landman Season 2 also matters because of what it says about performance itself. In a world full of overproduced TV, this one character brought something rare, restraint. They didn't shout. They didn't deliver long dramatic speeches. They didn't chew the scenery. Instead, they sat still. They looked someone in the eyes. They told the truth, not with big words, but with silence, glances, pauses, and somehow, that quietness rang louder than anything else in the episode. That kind of acting is hard to teach. It's instinct. It's discipline. And it only works when a writer trusts the actor enough to give them space. Thankfully, the Landman writers saw it. And the result? A performance that hijacked the spotlight not with noise but with depth. This shift also redefines the stakes of the story. In Season 1, the stakes were professional. Can he close the deal? Can he save the company? In Season 2, through the breakout, the stakes became personal. Can she survive this industry? Can he live with himself? Can they find a way out? The hijack didn't just give us a new character to follow. It gave us a new reason to watch. We're no longer just curious about what will happen next. We care. Because now the story is layered with moral weight, real emotion, and characters who feel like they exist outside the screen. Asterisk, and that's the magic of a well-earned spotlight. Shift. Asterisk, the spotlight didn't just shift, it reshaped the entire structure of Landman Season 2. And if you look closely, you can see the ripple effects happening in real time. Asterisk, from episode 4 onward, the show starts to feel different. Subtly at first, but undeniably, the framing changes. The pacing slows down during scenes with the breakout. Camera angles linger longer. Dialogue becomes sharper. It's as if the writers and directors collectively took a step back and said, okay, this person is the real deal. Let's give them the room to breathe. Asterisk, that kind of pivot doesn't happen by accident. In television production, episodes are usually written, shot, and edited weeks or even months ahead of time, which means when a character starts to emerge as a standout mid-season, the creatives behind the scenes either already knew it was going to happen, or they made the bold choice to adapt the story as it unfolded. Asterisk, and here's what's fascinating. Landman doesn't resist the shift. It embraces it, asterisk, instead of doubling down on the original lead or forcing storylines that no longer hold emotional weight. The show begins to balance both characters. The lead is still present, still powerful, but he's now sharing the screen with someone who can match him in energy, emotion, and complexity. That creates a new kind of tension. A new kind of electricity. And for the audience, it's a massive win. Asterisk, suddenly, we're watching two parallel stories unfold. Asterisk 1. A man struggling to hold on to power in a world he no longer fully controls. Asterisk, the other, quote, a rising figure navigating their way through a system that never cared about them, and somehow refusing to break. Asterisk, and that contrast, it's storytelling gold. Asterisk, because now every scene between these two characters crackles with unspoken pressure. Every look, every disagreement, every choice they make reflects their different worlds, their different stakes. The show becomes richer, denser, more alive. It's not just good drama, it's great television. Asterisk, behind the camera, you can also feel the impact. The writing around the breakout becomes more detailed. The lines more purposeful. This isn't just filler dialogue anymore. These are the words that drive the emotional core of the season. Directors give the actor more close-ups, more space, more trust. Editors hold their reactions longer. Even the music subtly shifts to support the tone of their scenes, sometimes softer, sometimes darker, sometimes completely silent. Asterisk, what we're seeing is a rare moment in serialized storytelling, a show that's evolving in real time. Asterisk, most dramas stick to their blueprint. They write based on long arcs, structured beats, and rigid lead character focus. But Landman is doing something different. It's allowing the story to be changed by the performance. It's listening to its audience. And it's letting the natural force of character momentum guide the emotional direction of the show. Asterisk. That kind of flexibility is risky, but when it works, it creates something unforgettable. Now let's talk about the long-term impact. From a story perspective, the lead's journey now has a mirror. Every decision he makes can now be reflected through the eyes of the breakout. Every success or failure is now measured next to another powerful story. That forces the writers to evolve his arc, to give it more nuance, more depth, or risk letting it fade behind the rising momentum. Asterisk, and symbolically, it's a powerful message. Asterisk, because the rise of the breakout doesn't diminish the original lead, it challenges him. It makes the story less about one man's empire and more about what that empire costs everyone else. That dynamic, the powerful and the powerless sharing the frame, is what turns Landman from a good show into a truly important one. Asterisk, and what about the rest of the cast? Asterisk, you can feel the shift there too. Other supporting characters start to interact differently with the breakout. Some scenes that might have originally been written as filler now feel more meaningful. Subplots are starting to align with the breakout's journey. Even the antagonist's motives are suddenly reframed through how they affect this character, not just the lead. That's how deep the impact goes. One performance, one character, and the gravity of the whole show bends around them. Asterisk. But perhaps the biggest change is this. Landman has found its emotional core, not just through tension or conflict, but through humanity. The breakout character brings something the story needed: vulnerability, resilience, and truth. They remind us that even in a show about oil empires and land deals, the most powerful thing is still a single voice telling their truth. Asterisk, and now that voice can't be ignored. Asterisk.